people drive too long, or they keep their houses for too long, and they keep that responsibility for them for too long. And for whatever reason they do it, it ends up putting everybody involved into a place of crisis.
Right.
When it does come to the point where everybody involved realizes, oh dear, it's time. And it was probably time about a year ago. I've seen families where they were dealing with degenerative illness, and they just didn't want to accept that that was the next phase of life. And when you own the timeline, you can control the timeline.
Right.
And what I've seen was people who didn't do that ended up with a more expensive experience, a more traumatic experience, and a more damaged relationship with their family. I didn't want that with my mom.
Right.
I wanted to be my mom's daughter all the way to the end of her life.
Welcome to the Answers for Elders radio show.
And welcome everyone to Answers for Elders Radio Network, heard across the USA. And we are back again at Chateau Pacific, a part of Chateau Retirement here in Linwood, Washington. And we're talking about resident experiences, what it's like to be a resident in senior living. And also, we're very honored to have Ann's daughter, Jen, from Apples to Zebras Insurance. And Jen, you happen to work within the industry of a lot of people that are long-term care planning and those things. So you have that experience, but you also approached coming to selecting Chateau Pacific based on, being a daughter. And those things are very important. So welcome to the show. I'm so glad you were here. And your mom told a little bit of a story. She was living with you and your husband. Tell me a little bit about that journey to start.
Absolutely. So when my aunt decided to shut down housekeeping, the house was just too much, and the pandemic was kind of roaring along. And Mom said, hey, I'm going to go to Phoenix, which is where my sister lives. And I was like, well, hey, come stay with us for a little while first. So she did. And that was great. It was wonderful. It was about 6 months, 7 months. And then she went down to Phoenix and came back. And Mom had stopped driving, which is a point in your lives that, as an insurance agent, I would encourage everybody to embrace that moment because it might embrace you otherwise. But she'd stopped driving and she didn't know how to use paratransit yet. And my husband and I are both active professionals. I run a 4-line insurance agency and he is working in the tech field. So we really didn't have the flexibility to our days as working professionals, middle life, he's 42, I'm 45. And we didn't have that flexibility in our days to really give Mom the life that she wanted as a retired person, that active life, hey, I want to go to a museum on a Wednesday. And I'm like, boy, would that be fun.
I have to work.
Yeah. I have 5 appointments today and I'm going to be helping somebody figure out their retirement world because that's what I was doing at work. It was clear that Mom wanted to spend more time with us, but also it was getting in the way of our work. And then when we had COVID sweep through the household, it really did a number on us.
Yeah.
When we had to deal with hospitalizations and supervision and all sorts of things, and we all 3 had it. So it was really anxiety inducing and to top it all off, it was just not fun.
Yeah.
So it was rough. And even just those little things, the day to day of, I want to go to church in the morning on Sundays, or I want to go to the museum on Wednesdays, and having to say, no, Mom, I can't do that. Right?
Yeah.
It takes its toll.
It does.
And it turns you from a daughter to kind of a gatekeeper to fun. And I don't want to be the gatekeeper on my mom's fun.
Yeah. I remember my days of caring for my mom in the early days, before she was in assisted living. I remember that feeling of, I have to work, and yet there was this pull and my mom needed me. And that feeling of, guilt, feeling like the whole world is on your shoulder because you feel that duty. Right. This woman raised you. She gave you, her heart and her soul and everything. And now all of a sudden you're in a situation where it's, but then if you have a career like you and I both do.
Exactly.
It's overwhelming, and
Absolutely.
it's all consuming. And thinking too, one of the things that's happening in the world today, which is, even when I was caring for my mom, it wasn't as such, but the sandwich generation is actually living longer because without that space, not only are kids staying at home longer, right? Because they're not moving out as soon as they get out of college. They're going back home and sometimes staying till their 30s before they move out. And our seniors are living longer.
Yes.
And so that's the good news. But on the other hand, there's this pull of how do I do all this and take care of my family and do all the things that I need to do with my business, my career, and all of those things. That stress is
How do I pay my
overwhelming.
bills?
Yes. And somehow you have to pay your bills.
Right.
Exactly.
Turns out it doesn't really matter how much help mom needs. The bills still need to be paid. It's amazing how that works.
Yeah. Yeah. So you are obviously better than most as far as knowledge because of the business that you were in, right? You help guide people in long-term care planning. What are some experiences that I guess have taught you on how to help others?
Good question. I think some of the experiences that have helped me happen in my office. Some of them happened while mom was at the facility where, at the community where she stayed while we were putting the addition on the house. And some of them have kind of just been cautionary tales that came from friends, because all my friends are a very similar age and we're all in kind of that same place. But it's stories of just waiting too long and not owning the timeline that everybody is on. You know, we are human. It is a condition, right? And as we get older, facing things with grace and dignity is often very hard. Accepting limitations that come along with some of that is often very hard.
Very hard.
And I see that on the insurance side, because people drive too long, or they keep their houses for too long, and they keep that responsibility for them for too long. And for whatever reason they do it, it ends up putting everybody involved into a place of crisis.
Right.
When it does come to the point where everybody involved realizes, oh dear, it's time, and it was probably time about a year ago. And now we've got to make up for a year of not having done anything.
Yeah.
And that's a huge amount of time debt to recover, and it puts the family into crisis. I've seen families where they were dealing with degenerative illness, and they just didn't want to accept that that was the next phase of life. And when you own the timeline, you can control the timeline.
Right.
Much more readily. You control the circumstances you exist in. And what I've seen was people who didn't do that ended up with a more expensive experience, a more traumatic experience, and a more damaged relationship with their family because of that experience. But owning it all together, I wanted that because I didn't want that with my mom.
Right.
I wanted to be my mom's daughter all the way to the end of her life. If I wanted to be a caregiver, I would have signed up for that professionally. I'm so glad there are people who did.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, Jen, that I look at, and when we're trying to be there for our loved ones, a lot of us as adult children, we listen to what the lips are saying, but not the scenario that's happening. And so mom and dad will say, I'm just fine, or I'm going to stay here in my house until you take me out feet first, kind of thing. And yet you see all this stuff happening around, and you don't necessarily know how to have those conversations with dad or like with mom of, the talking isn't matching what's happening. I'm not fine. You're not fine, Dad.
Bingo.
You're not able to, get up. You're a fall risk. You're going to have a bad fall. You're going to do a lot of different things like that. And, it's very difficult. I think that a lot of us as adult children don't necessarily, number one, know how to have the conversations, or we're in a situation where we feel like it's not our place. It is our place.
If you're the one picking up the pieces, it is your place. And you have an absolute right to say something about that, and almost an obligation, in my opinion, because it's a hard conversation to have. It's a courageous conversation to have. And when we come at it from a place of love, and that's what I did with my mom, was I came at it from a place of love. I'm like, I don't want to be picking a place out of the thin air just because they had a bed open, and whatever we could afford that had a bed open, and maybe this place will work and maybe it won't. I want to own this timeline. I want you to get to know people there. I want you to make friends there. I want you to feel like you belong there. I want you to feel like this is the place where you're comfortable and happy and belong all the way around. And when you don't feel that, if you don't feel that, let's find somewhere else.
Yeah. So you obviously went through this process and you came upon Chateau Pacific.
Sure did.
Tell me a little bit about that process.
Yeah. So when we actually started down the road to find, it was either rent space for me and my husband or rent space for mom. So we rented space for mom during the addition. And the idea was, hey, at some point in your life, your care needs are going to outstrip our ability to provide them. So let's go look at a facility that, like a retirement community, and move in there for a while. They probably have more care levels than you need. But at the same time, let's get a feel for it, right? Let's just see what they have, what they need. Let's figure it out. It's an exercise, right? So we chose it. She moved in. 4 months turned into 8, 12. And as construction projects do. And the entire process through it, I mean, it was pretty obvious that this was not the right fit for her, because every community is different. And I mean, just like our neighborhoods in our where we live out, outside the retirement communities, our neighborhoods are all different. Our cities are all different. All the places we live have different characteristics to them. And the same is true of retirement communities. So they were friendly enough. They were really nice, but the community wasn't the right fit for mom for a variety of reasons, starting with she's still more capable than a lot of the members of that community were. And that wasn't the right fit for her. That was fine. Right? So then she came back to our place after visiting Phoenix for a little while. And again, in January, we were like, okay, mom, where's next? Thanks for the Christmas present. What's next? And so we found the other community and the next community, and she moved in there. And we thought bigger was going to be better because it would have more options of things available. They would have more bus options, more places to go, more activities that fit her. It turned out that one was actually a little bit, there are a lot of people who drive in that community, and that limited the bus demand. And so that was like, and there were a lot of people who used the bus to go to medical appointments. And so the bus never went anywhere. And we were like, except medical appointments. And we were like, oh, wow. Okay. So like one lunch once a month was all that they could do. And mom likes to go sightseeing. Yeah. So the very first thing we did when we came in and we talked to Jackie was all like, all right, cut to the chase. This is our third one. Come on, man. Show me your activity calendar. I didn't care about the menus. I didn't care about the room. I didn't care about the view. Didn't care about where it was located, except it was around the corner from our house, which was cool. But I was like, show me the activity calendar, because I wanted to see that the bus went on shopping trips, that it went on touristy things, that they went on things that made mom's retired life richer. Right. And then I happened to be here on Thursday, and they had happy hour happening, and I noticed a speakeasy sign over the top of the coffee bar, and I was like, oh, that's precious. And I love the feeling of community and kind of the number of spaces that exist for residents to gather here, and the proclivity of the residents to use it, to use them. And so people will gather, and it reminded me a lot of like the college like student where there were like couches where people would just hang out and you like wander past and say hi
to this.
And so I'm like, because I've always thought about a retirement community as like a really nice dormitory, but without the college requirements, where you're still friendly. You have lots of like random bits of free time. You have different interests. Everybody's really good at something, be it physics or music. And so I got that feeling here. And I was like, all right, mom, you want to move in? Because at this point we were like, well, let's try this one. And we're very pragmatic about it. We're like, oh, we'll give it a go, because you really don't know until you've been here 3 or 4 weeks. You got to settle in. You got to try a couple of weeks of menus. You got to meet people. You got to say hi in the elevators. You got to just see where you fit. And if you find a place to fit, then that's the right place.
Right.
So when mom said, yeah, I think I want to stay here, I was like, okay, fantastic. And a week later, we got her a cat.
That's awesome.
His name is Eli.
Eli. I love that. So obviously you have some big tips, and before we end our conversation, I really want to revisit them.
Sure.
Number one, you talked about own the timeline.
Own your timeline.
We talked with Ellie last week, and we talked about the fact that don't wait too late, is another piece. What does that mean? And what can you tell our audience out there about that?
Sure. Owning the timeline means that there's a 70% chance that we will need assisted living or some form of assistive care in our later years. And I would say that in my retirement practice, with helping people figure out what their retirement timeline looks like and how that finance works out, I would say that's pretty accurate. We talk about people going into care needs, and we talk about that stuff. But I would say that that's borne out pretty well over the last 9 years as I practiced retirement planning with people. But that's the general statistic, right? 70% of us are going to need that. So if there's a 70% chance that something is going to happen, like it's going to rain, we're going to bring a raincoat.
Right.
Okay, elsewhere in the country, you'll bring an umbrella. We're going to bring a raincoat. So we know that that's true. So owning the timeline means that we accept that there's only a 30% chance that we won't need the kinds of services that are available readily and quickly from a trusted provider here at a retirement community like Chateau Pacific. And so when we talk about owning the timeline, we pick the place we're going to get those services before we need them. We move in when we're still independent, when we might not need what they have to offer in the greatest sense, but we pick the place we belong so that we can make the friends. We can use our brain plasticity while we have it to make friends and find new activities. Like Mom had never played video games like Wii Jeopardy before. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is fantastic. And Wii bowling. I mean, the Wii is fantastic. I love it anyway. My husband's a video game programmer. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
But when we talk about owning the timeline, it's accepting that we have a much greater chance of needing the additional services that places like Chateau Pacific provide than, as we go through the process, than we do of passing quietly in our sleep at home. And so with no need of additional care. So if we can get to a place where when we need those services, it's not, oh dear, Mom broke her hip. Now we have to hire a nurse or find something emergency style, or somebody's got to take a month off of work to do all this work, versus, oh dear, Mom broke her hip. Hey, could we get some help in her room? Like we need to kick in a care plan. A very different experience.
Very different conversation.
Doesn't disrupt the life of the children that are adults in their prime earning years.
Yeah.
It doesn't disrupt the family by completely upending everything. It provides trusted care to the person who needs it. Again, they have a 70% chance of needing that. And you're in a place where everybody loves you and knows you already. So they're not in that unfamiliar place.
Yeah.
And I think all of those things really contribute to having a much better prognosis for recovery at the end of the day.
The next thing I want to really touch on is community.
Yeah.
There are multiple studies that have said that isolation will oftentimes escalate symptoms of depression,
Sure will.
Alzheimer's, dementia, all of those things that, that we want to make sure that in our aging years that we live a full life.
Right.
You were very intentional about that piece. And the mental health piece, I think, cannot be overstated enough.
Absolutely.
Where a lot of times people think, oh, well, Mom or Dad is fine because all they do is sit home and watch TV, right, all day. That is not good mental health development. So how do you address that piece?
Sure. I think that the brain is a muscle. And when we don't use muscles, they atrophy. And when all we do is feed our muscles garbage, like TV, with all love for all of the TV shows that are out there, they're not they're not helping our brains stay active. They're not demanding critical thinking skills. They're not demanding that we stay active and engaged with our worlds. And I think that people who stay active and engaged with their worlds through those organic conversations with each other, through sharing their memories, through hanging out with their kids, through having drinks at happy hour, through having dinner with different people every day, through having to remember names in the elevator, right? All those things are great exercises for helping keep the neurons firing and the brain strong as long as humanly possible. And then the motor piece, like just walking to dinner, Like mom definitely had a difference in her stamina even between living at our house where she walked from her bedroom to the living room to the kitchen. Very short path.
Now she's walking the hallways. She's using those muscles.
Exactly. She's got to walk like way longer to get to the dining hall. And just that amount of walking alone and going to and from the activities has been really good for her stamina and her motor skills and her motor abilities.
Yeah. Jen, it has been such a pleasure and an honor to have you. Thank you so much for being on this show.
Thank you for having me.
Did you know that you can discover hundreds of podcasts in our library on senior care? So visit our website and discover our decision guides that will help you also navigate decision making. Find us at answersforelders.com.